What would you do if you won the lottery? Buy a new fancy car, a big expensive house, or possibly travel the world? Many of us have dreamed about what we would do if we won the lottery, but nearly one third of people go bankrupt within the first few years after winning the lottery. That's an insane number. Knowing how to handle money is an important part of life, whether you win the lottery or not. One decision you have to make after winning the lottery is whether you want to take out a lump sum now or have a yearly or a monthly amount that you receive over time. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. Another example of this problem is the would you rather question, where you can take a lump sum payment now or a yearly or monthly amount. These are supposed to be thought-provoking questions, but they're actually really easy to answer. So let's go ahead and dive in. For the start of this discussion, we're going to ask, would you rather have $1 million now or $4,000 a month? First, we need to make a few assumptions. These amounts are after taxes and we don't have inflation to worry about. Everything else is ceteris paribus. Everything else is ceteris paribus. Everything else is ceteris, and everything else is ceteris paribus. Or everything is equal outside of our choices. Let's take a quick look at the pros and cons of each option. The $1 million now means you can spend up to $1 million on really anything you want. You can, say, buy a $1 million house if you want, which is a very nice house. The con is, if you do buy something or you spend $1 million, your fun of spending money is over. The pro of the $4,000 a month is you now have $4,000 a month more than what you are currently making, and that's a decent income for the rest of your life. The con is you have to wait to make really large purchases or you have to take on debt. If it's so easy, what's the answer? In this scenario, it's the $1 million. And to explain this, we need another assumption here. The S&P 500 averages a 10% increase every year. We're going to assume that it's a 10% gain every year. There's no fluctuation. In reality, some years will be negative, like during recessions, but other years it can be really high, like in the past year, it's been close to 25%. Using this, if we invest the $1 million in an S&P ETF or some sort of safe account, we would make 10% every year. So after 1 year, we would have $1,100,000. And if you take out that $100,000 to spend for the year as income, and remember, we're ignoring taxes here, you would start over at the $1 million, and then next year you would have another $100,000. If you make $4,000 a month, you would end up with $48,000 per year, which of course is less than $100,000. And that's why the $1 million lump sum is the better choice in this situation. Now, a lot of people don't like math, but this is a pretty simple equation. We take the present value, the $1 million, we multiply that by the return we expect, which is 10%, which would be 1.1, and that gives you your future value, the $1,100,000. What if the monthly amount was $5,000? You would still take the lump sum, and that's because you take the $5,000, multiply that by 12, which is the months in a year, and you would only get $60,000, which again is less than our $100,000. So would you ever take the monthly amount? And the answer is yes. You can actually figure out at what point you would take the monthly amount as opposed to that lump sum amount. We can figure this out pretty quickly. If you take the $100,000 and divide it by 12 months, you get $8,333.33. So if the option was $1 million or $8,333.34, you'd come out on top by taking the monthly amount. And congratulations, you've just made 12 cents more by taking that monthly amount. Now, the math so far has been pretty easy, but what if we know the monthly value and we want to know how much the lump sum would need to be to make our decision? Like, what if the monthly amount was $5,000 a month and we wanted to know how much the lump sum would need to be to make our decision? So in the original equation, we took the present value, the $1 million, and we multiplied it by 1.1, which is a 10% increase or 10% return. That gives us the $1,100,000, which is the future value. So we have our equation, we just need to move some things around. Originally, we found our future value, but in this situation, we need to find our present value. And to do that, we want to find what the lump sum amount is. In this case, it's $5,000 times 12 months, which is $60,000. We take the $60,000 and we divide that by our return rate, which is 10% for 0.1, and that gives us $600,000. That means any lump sum over the $600,000, we would take the lump sum amount, and anything below that $600,000, we would take the monthly or yearly amount. And now we can figure out any combination. We have three variables: the present value, the amount we start with, the return rate, and the future value, the amount that we end with. We just need to solve for what we need to find. If you have two of the variables, you can always find the third. If the monthly rate was $10,000 a month, we would need $1,200,000 for the lump sum. If our return rate changes and our return rate goes to 12% instead of the 10%, if our lump sum is $1 million, we would need anything over $120,000 a year or $10,000 a month. If we were making $8,000 a month and the return rate was 9%, that would mean we would need a lump sum over $1,066,667. You've just learned how to find present and future values, and since you've learned something, you should like and subscribe. Now, there are a ton of different scenarios you can play around with. What would happen if you took taxes or inflation into account? Or what if you, say, took out $60,000 instead of the $100,000 and you invested the $40,000 left over? What happens if you take out $150,000 or $50,000 more per year? So you can mess around with the return rates, the present value, or the future value that you're trying to find, but you always come back to the same three variables and the same two different formulas. And there are preferences as well. Some people are just risk averse and they would rather have the $4,000 consistently coming in than potentially losing a large amount of that lump sum because of some sort of financial recession or depression or something like that. But the whole thing here is we can mathematically figure out which is the better alternative. And all of this is used in real world situations. For example, the present and future values are used in bond trading. So if you've ever been interested in bond trading, well, now you have the very first steps of bond trading. So now you know how to find present and future value. So go out and win the lottery. Actually don't, because statistically speaking, winning the lottery is extremely small and it's just a waste of money. But thanks for watching anyway.